What's up, guys? The mind of James, super music, super unlimited, endure, super athletics, super. James here. Atlas Shrugged, man, by Ayn Rand. One of my favorite books prior to becoming I guess you could say, a really admirer, lover, becoming a reader. I used to read before, but now I'm a reader. I love books. I think besides regrets, besides leaving behind my daughter, I make jokes that the moment that I'm at my death, I'm going to be saying all the books I could have read, all the information and knowledge that I'm not going to get to grasp, and stories and just books. So before all this, I read a story. I read a novel called The Fountainhead. That was the title of the book, called The Fountainhead. And it was my favorite book. It's the one that I remember. It's the one that it's like Once Upon a Time in New York, or Once Upon a Time in America, where sometimes the person who shines, the person who gets all the credit, the person who is not necessarily the one who pushed the envelope, or not necessarily the one who's deserving of it. And her book, The Fountainhead, I want to tell you guys the synopsis. I kind of liked it a little bit better than this. I remember it being only 400 pages long. This book being it's over 1,100 pages. And yeah, this book is amazing. It has some great insight. Novels are the author's way of hiding their true thoughts and putting their truest thoughts into character form. Just like, Mark Twain, a lot of his characters, Huckleberry Finn, Tom Sawyer, were real characters and real stories that he experienced, or he heard told to him, or he's seen other peers, people he knew, experience, and he put those into stories. And that's what Ayn Rand does. She was a Russian author. When she wrote this book, she had already, I'm sure this book took her years to write, but when this book became pretty famous and she was still alive and she started doing interviews, she was already an American citizen for 30 years already. She came from Russia. Just her ideas are pretty pretty on point, pretty on point for the society we're living in now. This one world order that's just so unhidden now. It's not even a secret anymore. And just the idea that we feel just because we reach success, we should have to give up half of what we worked for. Just because we've reached success, we have to feel bad for others just because we are the users of our mind to think, which is a tool given to us. You say we're born in the image of Christ, in the image of God. And part of that is having this free will, this mind to think and to create, and how there are these groups in place to regulate your achievements. Unfortunately, people who don't work hard enough, but the only power they use is weapon and violence to keep those with great minds under control. And she's just an amazing author, man. She's an amazing writer. You can see some of her ideas and how she's really trying to push those ideas. I've seen some of her interviews, so I could see where she's coming from, and it could get a little annoying sometimes and repetitive. And I'm saying that because it could also be very difficult to understand. Kind of like Nietzsche, kind of like these philosophers who, they wrote in Russian and different languages, and they had to get translated, but some of their stuff is really hard to understand. And I just like how I think part of the reason why she kept repeating a lot of things was so that way it could be understood. You know, that idea that, you know, she calls it mysticism, the mysticism of having to conform to society. You know, you're your brother's keeper. Like, why do I have to be my brother's keeper? Wait a minute. Like, oh, why do I have to be part of this tribalism? Why do I have to be down for the down, you know? What about you? What about you who creates this system? You know, are you down for the down? No, I see you living as a family man. I see you thriving and rising and gaining success and building a foundation for you and your future. But you want me to be stuck in that prehistoric way of living, tribalism? Like, why should I have to live like that? Why can't I have happiness and pride in my achievements? And why should I feel bad for what I've obtained? Have I obtained it at the point of a gun? Have I obtained it through being a bully? You know, what I created and what I have earned from my creation was all part of good business, was a trade, a barter, an exchange. And that person who purchased what I had to offer, purchased it out of the same respect that what he was giving up was equal to what I was giving up. So why should I feel ashamed? You know, why should, you know, because the same people who want you to be like, nah, you should feel bad for all your success. No, like, oh, to be about yourself is evil, you know, to care, you know, to be preoccupied with your own happiness, you know, no, that's bad, you know. I mean, it's shown in religion. But at the same time, they're living in nice homes and their rent's paid and their house is paid off and their family's healthy and their family isn't on drugs and they're taking off the top, you know. So, and I had already been kind of gathering this belief before I read this book. You know, I was already believing, coming to the idea that, you know, when I was young, 18, 19, totally against, oh, America's greedy. Well, we already know that, but what am I not gonna still try to build for myself and not think for myself and be the and live to the and live this one life that's given to me to the best of my ability? And you know, so it was a long book. It was a great book. I do like Fountainhead because this was about like the railroad, you know, about steel, about a motor that was ran off of energy that wasn't detrimental to the earth, like oil and coal. It was about like someone who created a new motor that could have changed the way the world worked. You know, it could have benefited the world and cut labor in half and would have been cheaper. And it was just about the minds of geniuses and how they felt they were just being used by a society full of looters, full of men who were incapable of thinking, and preached an idea that thinking was evil, you know, to think for yourself and to be great and to think it was evil. But at the same time, they were hypocrites. So yeah, pretty awesome book. She was a trip, this lady. So a little quote: to all the readers who discover the Fountainhead and ask me many questions about the wider application of its ideas, I want to say that I am answering these questions in the present novel, and that the Fountainhead was only an overture to Atlas Shrugged, like an introduction or like an idea before your main point. And I want to see this about the reader at the end. So about the author, I am the reader, right? About the author, my personal life, says Ayn Rand, is a postscript to my novels. It consists of the sentence, and I mean it. I have always lived by the philosophy I present in my books, and it has worked for me as it works for my characters. The concretes differ, the abstractions are the same. I decided to be a writer at the age of 9, and everything I have done was integrated to that purpose. I am an American by choice and conviction. I decided to be a writer at the age of 9, and everything I have done was integrated to that purpose. I am an American by choice and conviction. I was born in Europe, but I came to America because this was the country based on my moral premises and the only country where one could fully be free to write. I came here alone after graduating from a European college. I had a difficult struggle earning my living at odd jobs until I could make a financial success of my writing. No one helped me, nor did I think at any time that it was anyone's duty to help me. In college, I had taken history as my major subject and philosophy as my special interest. The first, in order to have a factual knowledge of men's past for my future writing. The second, in order to achieve an objective definition of my values. I found that the first could be learned, but the second had to be done by me. I have held the same philosophy I now hold for as far back as I can remember. I have learned a great deal through the years and expanded my knowledge of details of specific issues, of definitions, of applications, and I intend to continue expanding it, but I have never had to change any of my fundamentals. My philosophy, in essence, is the concept of man as a heroic being with his own happiness as the moral purpose of his life, with productive achievement as his noblest activity and reason as his only absolute. The only philosophical debt I can acknowledge is to Aristotle. I most emphatically disagree with a great many parts of his philosophy, but his definition of the laws of logic and of the means of human knowledge is so great an achievement that his errors are irrelevant by comparison. You will find my tribute to him in the titles of the 3 parts of Atlas Shrugged. My other acknowledgement is on the dedication page of this novel. I knew what values of character I wanted to find in a man. I met such a man, and we have been married for 28 years. His name is Frank O'Connor. To all the readers who discovered The Fountainhead and asked me many questions about the wider application of its ideas, I want to say that I am answering these questions in the present novel and that The Fountainhead was only an overture to Atlas Shrugged. I trust that no one will tell me that men such as I write about don't exist, that this book has been written and published is my proof that they do. And so I wish Dagny Taggart, she was the heiress of the Taggart Transcontinental Railroad. Her brother was Jim Taggart, who was kind of an antagonist. He was an idiot, kind of, he was a stupid guy. But he took over because he was the man, but the vice president was Dagny Taggart, a woman who had a lot of passion for what she did and had a lot of pride in her family's history. And she was very smart. She kept the railroad alive. So she's I would say she's almost one of the main characters. It kind of balances out towards the end, but she's definitely one of the main characters, and she is a female. She has some casual encounters with some of these powerful men who are superheroes like Batman and Superman, and are these seen as villains to the hypocrites, the looters, the mystics, but heroes to the underground. And so I think women will enjoy this book because, one of the main characters is a strong, powerful woman. As a man, it hurts me that she kind of was jumping through some of these guys and she had some encounters with them. But at the end of the day, she chose the man she wanted. And he was a genius of geniuses. And I kind of wish she would have stood with Reardon, because Reardon was dope. You kind of got to know him more than John Galt, but John Galt was a genius of his own as well. So yeah, that's just my opinion. It's funny because I read a book recently called The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem. My therapist referred it to me. It was a good book, it was a good book. And I seen some, I read like a part in here that kind of reminded me of that book a little bit. And in that book, 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem, that author, which was a male, he actually kind of throws this author, Ayn Rand, under the bus because I guess they dated when they were in college or something, or when she was young, when she came to America. It's such a small world, right? I guess when people achieve, not many people in any field reach the heights that they reach to. That's why you might see, actors that are high date other actors in that same level, or musicians, artists, they end up dating each other. You think, why would you date each other? It's such a big world, but I don't know. When you're at a certain level, the world doesn't seem so big. So it's funny, that guy, he kind of throws Ayn Rand under the bus. He says she was kind of like neurotic, or she was kind of like a weird person or whatever, or maybe even like a sociopath. I don't know what he was saying. Maybe, but like she came from another country, super focused, and like, I don't know. And made me think sometimes, even in her writing too, did she kind of like, I don't like, I'm sure he read her stuff, right? He dated her. They were contemporaries. They were maybe even rivals, who knows, competitors in the same field of work, admirers, you know, etc. And, you know, maybe he assumed that some of the characters or some of the situations characters went through were through her life experiences, maybe even with him, you know. So I can't remember his name, The Six Pillars of Self-Esteem. It's a good book, check it out. And it made me think, like, you know, I don't know, like, you know, she wrote great novels, great stories, and had a tremendous philosophical insight, you know. And even, like she said, she majored in history, and her special interest was philosophy, which I think philosophy, I'm going to take some philosophy courses tonight. Instead of calling it a minor, I'm going to call philosophy a special interest. So psychology is going to be my major, and philosophy will be my special interest, you know, because psychology came from philosophy, but once they started they started creating theories and created scientific method and started doing research, that's when psychology became a science. So psychology is considered a science now because of all the research and the study of the mind and human behavior and character and personality. So cause and effect, and which is causality. And yeah, so it just it kind of like, I felt like he was more of a cornball, you know. He was like, he just brought her up in his book of Six Pillars of Self-Esteem. It was kind of, why did you bring her up for, you know, like, he kind of put her on blast. But like, she kind of made, I don't know, but if she did, you know, if she did throw jabs at him, she threw it very subtly, right, in character form, you know. So I think that takes a little more creativity to do that. But yeah, I don't know. Atlas Shrugged, man. Maybe in about a year, I'll probably read this book chapter by chapter. I actually have my book coming through Amazon today or tomorrow. I bought this book, and I also bought The Fountainhead. So I'll probably do Fountainhead first. And I don't think I've ever even uploaded Fountainhead on here, because I read it before I started this whole YouTube thing. And so I got The Fountainhead and this book coming in the mail today, and maybe within a year. I'm almost done with a few books that I'm going to upload chapter by chapter. One is by Toni Morrison, which she has some classics. She's a Black American author and gives crazy insight in her novels. Henry David Thoreau, one of his classics, and another classic that I wish I would have, before I read it, I wish I would have just did the series, but I'll read it again. It's a memoir. But anyway, Atlas Shrugged. Peace.